All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Today is April the 3rd, 2020, and this is Wes Fryer, and I am together with some colleagues of Casady School in a Google Hangouts Meet, and we're talking this morning about parent and student expectations for Hangout Meet video conferences. And we have another slideshow that kind of goes through some of the specific how-tos with recording and things like that. And so I will bring that up as well. But I created this with the idea that if our parents, if our teachers, sorry, want to share this with parents, you definitely can. We'll put this in the frequently asked questions area for our website with a link. So you can just send a link to parents. And this just kind of covers some basics, and whether they do all these things or not, I think it's going to be successful. We had some 3 different first grade video conferences yesterday. So in terms of expectations, one of the biggest things is this number 2 item. And actually, I'll try to be fancy here because I have learned doing this lovely virtual learning. We can turn on our pointer and we can be using our pointer here. So make sure, this was I think something that Carla said, make sure that you let your parents definitely know exactly how they're going to get the link. And one of the best ways to send that is through a Seesaw announcement. Of course, you can also email that to them, but communicating that clearly so that they know, here's how I'm going to get the link. That can be a really good thing. We want to make sure that the parents are ready to mute and unmute their microphone. In fact, I will probably go ahead and add to this slide a little screenshot that shows, there it is at the bottom of the screen. Some of our kids will be on iPads, some will be on, a Chromebook or a laptop. But, that's definitely something they're going to learn pretty quickly. But being ready, and they had parent support when they did their first grade video conferences that worked well. But that's, important for them to be ready. Number 4, I've got another slide for this. But if they want, it really helps to install this grid view. That only works on a laptop. That doesn't work on an iPad. And it's not a make or break thing, but it really is fun to get to see everybody at the same time. And then lastly, they can click the link early to be ready. But that may be something to talk about, because the way the Hangout Meet works is that everybody can join at the same time. So I don't know, maybe we want to say, join exactly at the start time. So that way, I would recommend that you get there probably 10 to 15 minutes early, because once they have the link, unlike other video conference platforms, it lets them into the room. So that's probably something that you want to be there, I would say at least 10 to 15 minutes early. I'm not going to play this video, but again, this is a slideshow you can share with your families. This gives an overview of the tools, what it looks like. This is something we included in the other training. Turn off my pointer. When we did the teacher training for this. I need to delete that slide because that doesn't apply. This is the link to the Google Meet grid view. And so I think a number of you have already installed this before, and what this allows us to do, in fact, I'll do a little demonstration of it now, is that if I'm not using that, this is what I'm seeing when content is being presented. When I have it installed, up here in the upper right corner, I have this little, looks like a tic-tac-toe box, and I click on that, and look at that. Now I can see everybody's screen. Now, when you are in a conference like this and someone's presenting content, you probably don't want it on, because it'll just make the presenter's content be in another really small window. So in that situation, you can turn it off, and then you get to see the content. But for what we're talking about, which is check-ins and just being able to see our kids, that we had really positive feedback from Autumn, Lindsay, and Carla. Autumn, I know, said that she was able to just call on kids on their hands. I talked to Simon Sarkody this morning. He's able to do the same thing. So you don't have to, it just makes it flow really easily, because you can see everybody's name and you can call on them. So this also, when you install this does not affect what your students and parents see. This is only for your view. So it's something that we'll make of it, let people know about. Again, it only works on a laptop, but you can have this as the teacher, and I think definitely you'll want it, because you'll just be able to see all your kids at the same time.
Hey, Wes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So do we suggest that parents add this extension, or is this extension just for teachers to have?
I would let everybody know about it. And we might actually, the second one we could take off because we don't want to make it too complicated. It's just that if they do it, it allows it allows the child to see their class just like we're able to all at the same time.
Okay.
You don't have to. You can make a copy of this presentation and use, as much or as little of it as you want, but it's free. It will install in their Chrome browser, and I think it's a good add-on. So I don't know at this point. The only thing that could be an issue that I've heard before is that we have had some teachers with some difficulties with the Hangout Meets, and that we think could be due to how many extensions they have. One of the ways that Chrome, if it has problems, can have them is if you've got a lot of extensions on. So anyway, there can be some technical issues with this, but overall, this has worked really smooth, and deactivating other extensions is a way to deal with those issues. This one, we could take this out if we wanted to. This is something we haven't tested nearly as much, but it's another free extension called Nod, and it allows the kids to raise their hands virtually by clicking a little box. They can do this in Zoom and other video conferencing tools now. It's going to be fine for them just to raise their hand and physically, because you can see them. So that's something we can talk about, and we may or may not actually want to include that as a tip. So these joining instructions, though, I think are good. You're going to send them the link. You are going to have to approve the parents who are not Casady staff members joining, because anybody who has a Casady.org email account and they click join, it will let them in the room right away. But it does not let other people, who are not part of our Casady community right now with an email address, either students, faculty, or staff. It does not allow them to join unless you approve them. And so we can test this, but I actually am not positive that they have to join with a Google account. It's nice if they do, because you can see their name, and we'll need to test that a little bit more. But we definitely want them to mute. We want them to remember we're in class. And then one of the things, and it's going to depend on the age of your kids and whether you end up wanting to do this or not, but there is this chat window. In fact, I want to encourage you now, if you'd like to type in the chat, any questions. And since my wife is here, I'll ask her to give voice to any of those questions, just as she was asking the question earlier. That's a nice strategy, because you can't really think about presenting and talking at the same time and then trying to read a chat. So that is something that is up to you. I mean, you could ask them, let's not use chat at all, guys. I just want you to, raise your hand, and I'll see you raise your hand, and I'll call on you. Or you can, if your kids are older and they want to do that, you'll want to give some expectations for chat in terms of, pardon me, reminding them that, we need to keep it appropriate. And I had some of my fifth graders, when we practiced before we left for spring break, just like typing lots of characters just randomly at return. I was like, guys, that's not respectful for us, because nobody can follow that. And we want to be able to read what the chat is. So if you have something to say, great, type it in, but don't just type, 30 things and then hit return, because that may seem funny, but this is our class. And then, by the way, that's another good reason to have that recorded. So we'll talk about that for expectations.
Hey, Wes, we have a couple questions.
Okay, perfect.
So once the parent's email has been approved once, will they need to be approved every time we do a Google Hangout?
Yes.
And then the second question is, do you have to approve each joining one at a time or multiple at once?
So you have to approve them separately, and you have to approve them every time. So that's why, and this, what I have found doing lots of these video conferences is, it's great to give a time in advance for people to just get connected and be able, like you all were before I joined. It's good to have somebody there 10 to 15 minutes early. And it has to be you. If you've created the conference, or the Hangout Meet, you're the only person who can approve non-Casady.org people from joining. So that is something else that you can communicate to your parents to say, I will be there 10 minutes. We're going to have our, like today's was at 10 o'clock. I will be there at 9:50 to approve and greet people, but we'll go ahead and start our class at 10. I think that's a good thing to communicate. It gives people a chance to practice unmuting their microphone and checking that. But to answer the question, you do have to approve them individually. You can't just say, I don't think, approve everybody. I think when we've done this before, it's individual and then it's every time. So that is an important security thing. One of the things that we want to avoid, and I don't know if you've seen some of these headlines with Zoom, and it's unfortunate because I think, you know, who knows with as far as the media, how much this gets blown up. But there have been some incidents with Zoom calls where, you know, people who were not supposed to be in that call joined the call. And the articles I've read, those have happened when people shared the join link publicly. So you don't want to really post that out on you absolutely don't want to post a join link to your meeting just out on your Facebook page or in some other social media. I think our recommendation is you can post that as an announcement in Seesaw. That's a great way to send that. You could also email that to your parents if you want to.
There's a couple questions here too.
Go ahead.
Meredith asked, our kids don't have access to their Gmail account, so more than likely they'll all be joining from a different account for us to approve, right?
No, so, all of our kids in grades 1 through, this will be different in primary, and they'll just be parent accounts at that point. But all of our kids have a Google account, and this is a good thing to clarify. Our kids have a Google account when they start in first grade, but that doesn't have Gmail email turned on. So we can't email our lower division kids. And our plan at this point is to not turn that on. We have, you know, gaggle filtering when kids reach 5th grade, but that's why, you know, having them join it through a Seesaw announcement that goes to parents. You can also post that in, and then of course for Google Classroom 4th grade, you all are just able to post it into Classroom. You know, it'll be right in the feed. You can say, here's the link to join. And they'll be able to just go to their Google Classroom. So I think it's really good to think about where the kids are going now. They can click there and go. In Seesaw, you could post that to the journal. You could say, hey guys, we're going to be having our check-in today. Here's the link. And so if you put that link in as a comment below a picture, you can make a slide or just a picture of you smiling or whatever, but it might be good to, you know, draw or have some graphic there. But then you have that link. They'll be able to just tap their link on their device and enter the Hangout.
Okay,
because
so we're sending that. You keep saying link through Seesaw. So when parents click on that link, is that link take them to their email? I mean, I guess I'm confused about that step. So do we just put the link into Seesaw? When they click on it, what happens?
Okay, they join. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and I'm going to, because what I recommend you do, I might actually I'll show this to you quickly, and then I'll open up those slides for the training that we had done earlier.
Yeah, because
can I put this in different words for Shelley?
Sure.
Shelley, maybe if the kids have gone to Google and have logged into Google with their Google account, like they were on a Chromebook, then if they're in Seesaw and they click that link, it will go straight into your chat without you approving it.
True. But
if they go email, but they can log into Google.
But if they're on their iPads,
okay,
you know, because the thing that when they did this in primary, all the parents are there. When they did this with the first grade, all the parents are there. But I don't know if in 4th grade and 3rd grade, if all the parents are going to be sitting there. And so some of our kids may go to their,
Right. Okay. So let me answer that. So here we are on the calendar. We're going to recommend that you create the calendar event just the way that you would do it for a faculty meeting. So you click on your calendar. You're gonna say, you know, test. I'll call this test hangout, but you'll call it, you know, our class meeting, and you're gonna say more options. And then when you add the conferencing to it, that's going to create the link. And then, let's say test class meeting or whatever you're going to call it. Okay. You create this on your calendar. And so when you then click on this, you have the Join Hangouts Meet. And you get this little box on the side that when you click it, it copies that to your clipboard. Okay, that is what you, and maybe I'll make a little screencast of doing that. I'm going to paste it into chat so you see it. When I paste this into chat, it's just a Hangout Meet. And so to Shelly's point, and this actually does need to go in our slides, our students are going to need, who are on iPads, they're going to need the Hangout Meets app. And I think that Jeremy pushed that this morning to all of the student iPads. So they're in Seesaw, they have the link, they tap it, and it just opens up the app, which they've already installed, Hangouts Meet, and they go there. So that is a very good point that we'll need to add is kids who are on an iPad are going to, in addition to Seesaw, need the Hangouts Meet app so that it can, so when they click the link, it opens up and boom, they're there, and they'll click join and it'll ask them for their Google account and they'll put that in.
So our students that are working on their personal iPads, we need to make sure that the parents know they have to install the Google Meets app.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's why I wanted to have a little meeting to talk about this and for you all to help me catch stuff too, because there are different moving parts to this. We're thankfully, we're getting more comfortable as teachers with Hangout Meets because we've been doing more of these, but this will be very new for our students and they're on different devices. That does make it challenging. If they're in a Chromebook, they're going to be ready to go. They're just going to click it, boom, it opens up a tab. That's a nice thing about Hangouts Meet, unlike Zoom and GoToMeeting. There's nothing to download on a laptop. It's just inside Chrome. But I will add a slide to this parent expectation slideshow, which I'm going to attach to this calendar event, and I will also email to you, and I will put on there a slide in advance on a personal iPad, download and install the Hangouts Meet app, because that is they're going to need to do that before it starts. Great question. Any other questions? I'm going to share my screen again real quick, and I want to go back to the overview slideshow that we have. So this is the slideshow, and I'll attach both of these. This was the training slideshow that we did for teachers, and we've made some changes to this. This is really for you rather than the parent one. So there's a parent one that's separate. What I want to remind you of here is that this has step-by-step guidelines for adding it in calendar. Okay. This also talks about recording, and it has several different tips. So provide the clear guidelines of how they're going to join, announce that you're going to record this. That's actually a legal requirement. We've got not only students, but parents who are adults. Our policy as a school is to record the meetings that we have with students. And so, you need to make sure that they know it's being recorded. You're asking them to mute. And then if you want to, they're in purple, you could designate somebody to monitor the chat, giving voice to questions. Definitely good to join 10 to 15 minutes early. I don't think you'll run into this, but there's a possibility of needing to authorize Chrome. I think it depends on the version of Mac operating system that you're running. But if you're running the latest Catalina, I think I did have to click approve. So this may or may not happen. But if you want to share content, that's a good thing to test in advance. So that, because if you have to click this, you end up having to quit the Chrome browser and relaunch it. So just test in advance if you're going to try to share content like I'm sharing here as you are teaching. Very important, how to record the meeting. So when you're ready to start your meeting, you click the three dots in the bottom right corner at the very top. You select record meeting, and then you are going to have a pop-up menu that's going to say, are you sure? And I think that's what I need to change the screenshot for. And you click yes. When you're done, it's the same thing. You go back to the three dots, you say stop. And what's beautiful about the Hangout Meet is that recording is automatically put into your Google Drive. It gets the name of your event from the calendar, and it both attaches itself, it puts itself in a folder called Meets recordings that it makes automatically, and then it's attached to the calendar event. So if you need to go back, and I'll show you this as an example. So I'm going to go to my calendar. So yesterday we did a little demonstration recording. So I'll go back to yesterday, and I had a meeting after lunch with that wasn't the one. This was with Lindsay. This event should have the recording attached to it. And man, maybe that wasn't the one that I did. When you have something recorded, it actually appears there inside the event. And unfortunately, I don't think I've got that. I don't have that. Maybe we didn't do it in that one. Okay, those are the main things. This is review. To do the grid view, this is kind of advanced. I wouldn't worry about the nod reactions right now. But when you get down here, here's your step-by-step. Using Google Calendar, you're going to create a new event. You're going to click on Add Conferencing. You're going to then be able to copy that information and either into your Seesaw announcement or your Seesaw class post or your email or all three, depending on how you're going to share it. At the time, you can actually just go to your calendar and you can click it from your calendar, and you can verify that your mic and your camera is working, and you're ready to go. And so anyway, those steps are there. Shelley, do we have any other questions that have come into chat?
Sorry, I went off my boot off so I could see your screen. So
okay, I will stop sharing my screen.
So Amy said, so a fourth grader accessing the link in Classroom will not have to be approved, and any students on a Chromebook, even if accessing the link via Seesaw, will not need approval?
That is correct. And so I would recommend that rather than create a repeated meeting, you create these meetings separately. We do not have right now for lower division or middle division students approved to create their own meetings, to do their own Hangout meets. They can join them, but they can't create them. And so it's best to create these on a case-by-case basis, because they can join it when they click the link. I think that after the time has expired and everyone's out of the meeting, I don't think that link works anymore. And so that is, in this context, probably a good thing. But you need to know, I mean, this is a difference from Zoom and GoToMeeting. Those products will say waiting for an organizer, and then nobody sees anything until the organizer who has sent out the invitation and created it has joined. Google Hangouts Meets was designed to be much more collaborative, so it doesn't currently have that feature. That may be something that they add, but at this point, I would just say be clear about expectations, to say if you want to come 10 minutes early, I'll be there, but as soon as they click the link, they'll be in the room. And so they could theoretically be in the room before you are. So if you're just clear about those expectations, and you could even say, come 10 minutes early, and then you come 15 minutes early. I think it should be fine, but I want you to know how the platform works so there are no surprises, and it will not wait for you to let students who have or anybody who has a Casady.org address, it won't wait to let them in the room. For a parent who doesn't have a Casady.org address, they can't come in until you say approve.
Okay, so here's my question. So we add the link to student announcements?
I think so, because if you want yours...
Because not all of our kids know to go to student announcements. So maybe we do families and students.
Mm-hmm.
But then the students go to their Seesaw account. Even if they're on a Chromebook, they go to their Seesaw account.
Right.
If they're on their iPad, they go to Seesaw on their iPad. They go to the announcements, and they click the link from there.
And maybe we'll want to add that inside the slideshow. We can do that. And that's something for you all to talk about. What's going to make the most sense? We can't email our lower division students. Fourth grade's no problem, right? Google Classroom, it's just in the feed. They're going to click it there. Seesaw, it could be an announcement, but the kids are more used to seeing their feed. I mean, you could create an activity and say the activity is we're meeting up, on Monday at 11 o'clock or whatever. But you're just going to want to make sure the link is clickable, and that's going to probably mean that it is below the post, as a comment that they can click on, or in the activity.
Because when the first grade did this, they just sent emails out to the parents, right?
That's correct. And
So
parents were the
we're
ones
trying
that
to do this
joined.
independently with our kids. So
Correct.
that's why this is a little different than what other grade levels are being able to do.
Well, I would encourage us, as we especially start, that if parents can be there, that would be ideal, right? For them to be there with their child, and for that experience to be, not the child by themselves. But reality is there's going to be lots of situations. And as we go further along, certainly, for our older lower division kids, there's going to be independent meeting times when, hey, we have class, and they're going to be able to do it. So this is where we're also going to learn as we go along. But as long as we're clear about how you're sending it and how they're getting it, I think emailing it to the parents right now is a good idea, sending them the link. But then you can tell them that in Seesaw, that you can decide, is it an activity that you're going to make, because you can schedule that, or is it going to be in the announcements. We actually want them to know about announcements and how to get to those. So this may be a good way to educate both students and parents about how they view their announcements in Seesaw.
Yeah, because I know that with a lot of our third graders, I know I have students that are being left alone at home with older siblings. And so, Jennifer and I were talking this morning about when we were to schedule our meets, and they may not have a parent available at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well,
and
here's something else to be sensitive
when do we
to.
do these? Do we do these in the morning? Do we do these in the evenings?
Here's something else to be sensitive to, and this will be something we'll just have to kind of figure out. I know that we've got multiple families with multiple kids at home who are doing things. We have a college daughter at home, and we have a 10th grade Casady student at home. And so we've had situations already. I think we might have had one where there were 4 of us that had a live event at the same time. And by the way, if you haven't updated your Wi-Fi in the last 2 or 3 years, this might be a good time to do it. We're using the Google Nest, Wi-Fi, and it handled it. We could all 4 be on at the same time, but that is not going to be the case for everybody. So, I don't know. Monty, do you have thoughts about that in terms of the time for scheduling, or what are your thoughts about teachers with the times? She is finding the mute button. Yeah, you got it.
I do. I'm also thinking, I wonder if it would be good to schedule 2 different Google Hangouts. Like maybe one, it will be later, because they're a working parent. So maybe you'd be willing to do one at 5:30, a short one, and then one during your learning block, so that they know, okay, I'm going to have 2 different opportunities. I think the feedback that I'm hearing from parents is it's mostly from working parents that are still considered essential employees and that have more than 1 child. So they just can't do it all, and they want to do it all. So
yeah.
I think the more we can just keep in mind, just like Wes, you presented your scenario, I think the more we can keep in mind the struggles that the parents are going through right now, the better our decisions will be.
And I also think it can be good to offer this up as an optional opportunity for check-in, because we're all probably gonna do better delivering content and actually teaching using, as you all already have been, video that you record in advance. This is really interactive. And in fact, I think I've said this before, but right now in this video conference, we haven't done this to let everybody talk. And this is a little different since we're doing a workshop. But when you're doing a check-in, I really encourage you to make sure everybody gets to participate. Because if everyone doesn't get to say something, it's like, why did I come to this? I could have just watched a video. I mean, we're letting people through the chat, share things too. But I think especially getting started to say this is optional, so that if people miss it, they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I missed it, and I'm now we're behind more and all of that. No, this is an optional opportunity that we're providing. To Monty's point, that's a good thing to think about. Maybe you're going to do it during the day for the first time, and then in the evening as you get started. The other thing you can think about as we get further into this, and I think we're going to want to come together again, to just like I did with Autumn and Carla and Lindsay yesterday, is just to powwow and say, what'd you learn? What worked well? The more people that are in a conference, the harder it is to hear from everybody and to interact. So as we move forward, you might even be setting something up where it is a smaller group. Maybe it's half your class and it's just a check-in, but it's short. It's like 15 minutes or something. And so anyway, we're going to learn from this. And the good thing is the platform is very strong and it works well. But there's a lot of moving parts to it. And I think the scheduling part, especially with families who have different situations with internet, different situations with respect to, how many people are trying to get on and how much speed do they have. I forgot to mention this. Every Google Hangout has a phone number that they can call. And this is actually a really important thing to share, because there are going to be cases where people are gonna have connectivity problems. So I just went to the wrong window. So down here in the Hangout Meet, I'm going to click on the name of our meet right in the bottom left corner. And I've got that joining info that includes the dial-in number. Okay. That's also in the calendar. When you are in a calendar event, this is the main thing to copy, is the link. But you also might go ahead and copy the join by phone. That's any phone, and that is not an app. That is like, what we used to do all the time with our phones, like call each other. That's what that is. And so it's not something that everybody's going to need to do, but we've already had some instances where, because of technical issues, yesterday there was, Carla called in with her phone and she still joined us and we got to hear her and everything. So be aware of that and you let that in. Hey, Carla's here.
Carla joined with the phone.
Yes. Meredith had a question about Hangouts versus Meet, and that we need to be consistent about what we're saying, because Hangout and Meet are two different things.
This product is called Hangouts Meet. That is the name of the new version. When Google originally rolled this out, it was called Google Hangouts, and it had a lot of similar features, but there are still classic Hangouts. They've made changes to them. You can't live stream out of them and other kinds of things, because we used it for about a year on this Wednesday night show I do with my friend in Montana, and they changed it and we had to shift to something else. So the product itself is called Hangouts Meet. There is also Hangouts Chat, which we've experimented with, and that's not something we're just using that right now on a test basis for faculty and staff. But this product itself is called Hangouts Meet, and I know it is confusing because I've been used to saying Google Hangouts, and I've done workshops like that, and it's the Google video conferencing. So
Jeremy had something earlier. Jeremy, do you still have something to say, or?
Wes, I didn't know your thought on introducing Calendly, if they want to use that to set up those appointment times. Might be
I
a
would
good
say
thing.
that's a fantastic idea, but we could maybe offer that next week as an optional. Yeah. Jeremy, and we talked to Jerry Baca McKinney and Candace Clinton. Several of us have set this up where now we have there's a link you can go to set up a 15 or 30-minute meeting with us. And so that is something that we could do and offer. It just makes it faster because it automatically checks your calendar and you get to say, hey, I'm going to be available between these times. And it's a way to facilitate that. So we could definitely, offer that as an optional way. You can handle that just directly through email, but I'm finding it good because where I might have had to exchange 3 or 4 emails with somebody to set up a time, they can just click on it and then they book the time and it goes right onto my calendar. Any other questions? Yes, Carla, go ahead.
So I just came from a Zoom meeting and I didn't know that this was a option, and I didn't know if we could do it in Meets, but in Zoom, we had 15 people on the call, and then at different points in our conversation, he broke us into breakout rooms so one breakout was a group of 5 people and the other breakout was a group of just 3 people.
Right.
And I think this randomly generated. Does Google Meet or Hangouts Meet have a function like that?
No, it doesn't have a function like that. And when I was in the Josh video conference yesterday, he had the Lord of the Rings. He was in Rivendell, and he had, it was very cool. I felt like, man, I gotta get myself in Lord of the Rings too. That's a feature with Zoom. So other video conferencing platforms are having other features. Currently, Hangouts Meet does not do that.
Okay.
But that is a cool thing. But we could also, like I said earlier, think about, you might have your class broken up, and if it makes a big difference if you've got 8 in the conference instead of 16 or something. But initially, I really think it's good. Everybody come together. We'll get our feet wet doing this, and then we'll offer opportunities to come back together like this and talk about it. Hey, how did it go? And find out what seems to work and what tripped people up and that kind of thing. Carla, I was just giving folks a chance at the beginning to share kind of how things went. Do you want to? And we're going to continue to record just a little bit more, and then we're going to stop the recording. But would you share just kind of how things went? And we covered some of those expectations about clearly communicating how to join the link and stuff. But any kind of wisdom and tips you'd pass on after your pioneering conference with the first graders? Carla, yeah.
Sorry. It went really well. I just kept it to social, emotional learning. I did not do any that's not true. I showed them a video, like a 2-minute dance video, to see if they would be into this thing called hip hop health. And so having 2 minutes of curriculum was helpful. And then we just played Would You Rather. And with first graders, they just answered they would rather always feel like they had to sneeze or have hiccups every day for 4 hours. And they didn't explain it. They didn't go into it. I didn't have to limit them in time. That the older they get, you might have to give them, you have 15 seconds to answer this question. Other than that, I would encourage people to do it because I think the kids really enjoy seeing your face and they enjoy seeing each other's faces.
Absolutely. Thanks. I just dropped into chat. That is the hip hop health link that she shared in the video. It was very fun.
Hey, did y'all ask this question? I had to run and see the Purdue baby. Monsieur was teaching with the baby, so I had to go see. Amy, you answer Amy's question? Is a parent expected to be present for the hangout?
I don't know. Monty, what do you think?
I think if it's a whole group and it's recorded, I think it's fine if they are not. I mean, especially for the older students, because if we say that, then that's again penalizing those families that are essential employees and those children who really need to feel this connection.
Again, if we phrase this as, at least initially, because we got to get our feet wet with this is an optional opportunity. This will be a chance for us to see each other and check in. That will perhaps alleviate some of that. And also this is invitational. We're inviting parents if they're able to join. We're inviting students to join if they can as well. Shelley had asked if we could send a record.
I'm sorry. Our parents, this is what I feel like happens. Many times if we say you're invited to attend, then they all feel like they have to attend. It's interest. It's just, I don't know. They just do not want to do the best they can. So I think, we can definitely put that on there, but let's just see how that goes. And I think we're safe with recording it. We're not doing one-on-ones individually with a student alone. So I think we're safeguarding.
So if we do, like Laura was doing a one-on-one with a student, then if we do a one-on-one, then we do need a parent present and we record.
They do not have to sit right there with them, but the parent should start out and the parent should be around.
Okay.
It's not like the parent has to sit in the chair, but it would be good for the parent to acknowledge that they're aware that you're doing this and that they are around.
Sure.
I was trying to answer this in chat. So Shelly asked if we can send the recording to parents later. Yes, you can. You could also send it to students. So that is going to be in a folder called Meets Recordings that's in your Google Drive. And that isn't a folder, by the way, that I don't think you want to mess with as far as like renaming it or, you know, it like Google Classroom's folder that's called Classroom. It's automatically made, and all that stuff you just kind of leave it. But you can go into it and you could share a link to the video. So it will be named for your event. It will have the date, and all you'll need to make sure is probably to change the sharing setting so that anyone can view. Because this will be for parents, they won't have a Casady account, and so you just say anyone can view, and then you'll send them the link. And so yes, that is available. All right. Any other questions before we turn off the recording? And then we'll see if anybody has anything else. Okay.
Anyone have any questions for me?
I'll go ahead and turn off the recording, then we'll see if anybody's got any other questions. So, all right.